This project was supported in part by a Center of Aging, University of Manitoba Age-Friendly University Initiative Fund 2021-2022. Welcome to Staying Connected, Bridging Digital Gaps. I would first like to thank you and congratulate you for starting this journey. I know technology is not always the most simple, and putting yourself out there to learn something new or to improve your skills can also be a difficult challenge. So, congratulations for starting this journey. I want to start by introducing myself. My name is Wilfred Samking, a proud University of Manitoba alum, an entrepreneur, technologist, marketing specialist, and University of Manitoba Outreach Engagement Officer. That's a mouthful. But this isn't about me today. This is about you. And that's how I created this course. I was thinking about how do we bridge connections even in this digital world. Like many of you, as soon as the pandemic hit, there was a huge influx of everything shifting digital. And a lot of people missed out and are still missing out. And unfortunately, it's not for lack of trying, it's typically a lack of know-how. So that's why I created this course, especially for you to help you on this journey. Some things you probably already know, and some things you will learn that are brand new. And I'm sure if you finish this course, you will have a lot of value, or you will find something that you can apply whenever you're using digital technologies. So let's start with an overview. We're going to start with an introduction to terminology, tech terminology. Try saying that 3 times. That's a tongue twister. Then we're going to move to devices, purchase decision, and the utility of those devices. We'll cover desktop, laptop, tablet, and mobile, and other accessories, but we won't get into the nitty-gritty. Then we'll move on to apps, software, and emails. What apps you should download, what is software versus applications, and what email provider you should use or not use. Then we'll move on to the internet and the Internet of Things and websites. And last but not least, we'll go through social media. I want to remind you, in creating this course, I used my personal experience, got some expert information and advice, and compiled it all to try to make it in a digestible manner. These are my best tips. These are my opinions. So if you find conflicting or different opinions, that's absolutely fine. Cross-reference. The internet is a very big place. It's very vast, but I'm sure as we go through this journey, we will learn a lot and learn how to even improve some skills that we already have. Once again, today's goals are for me to provide you with a general understanding of digital devices and digital communities. I want you to learn how to use and leverage the devices that you already own or the devices that you're thinking of purchasing. If we can do that extremely well, we hit the nail on the head, and I want you to leave this course with the confidence to try to tackle most digital difficulties and technology issues that you may have. Section 1, tech terminology. What is that mumbo jumbo tech lingo that everyone is using? So today we're going to go through the meanings and just the simple descriptions of what different things are, such as software, hardware, smart devices, data, web servers, cloud, browsers, ad blockers, and native apps. So let's get started with what is software. So software is what runs the device or the hardware. What you see when you're using the device is software. Obviously, you're not the one coding the software. You're not the one really putting it together unless you are that advanced. But think about software kind of like what runs, the brains of the operations. Hardware is the physical device, the pieces that make or automate the software to work. So they work together. Think about it kind of like your brain and your body. Your brain sends signals all throughout your body to do different things, and your body corresponds accordingly. Pretty simple. Smart devices are devices that can communicate with other devices. So for instance, my calculator would not be considered a smart device because it has no way of really functioning with my computer, laptop, smart speaker, or anything like that. But my iPad, on the other hand, would be considered a smart device because it can communicate with not only my laptop, but other devices around it. So it has a CPU or a processor, a CPU meaning kind of brains, and a processor meaning it can take instructions and information and do things with it. So that's pretty straightforward. Next, what is data? Data refers to the digital information being stored or used. It also refers to your mobile internet connection, but that's more slang. In the sense of tech, or in the world of tech, when we talk about data, we're typically talking about information. The reason why data is synonymous with your mobile internet is because it receives and transmits data, and that's how you are able to use the internet. So it's not incorrect, but it is a different form of data or technology that's being used. But that doesn't really matter. Servers. So servers are big computers that store websites, online apps, documents, pictures, or different data. And that's how you access the internet. So think about a server as like a warehouse, a big facility whereby a lot of information comes and goes, kind of like a Costco. And next, we're going to talk about the cloud. So the cloud is kind of like an invisible place. People don't really know what it is. The cloud is actually what servers are. All a cloud is saying your information is not being stored where you are. Similar to how your bank stores your money, it's still your money, but it's stored with the bank and it's not physically with you. But when you want it, you can either use your card or you can go withdraw it. That's how the cloud and the server relationship work. So think about it that way. I know might be a little complicated, but just think about it as information being stored somewhere safely most of the time. Browsers. Well, we all know basically what a browser is, but a browser allows us to navigate or surf the web. Think about it kind of like your vehicle or a plane. It helps you get to the destination you want to get to. An ad blocker sits on your browser. It's a software or application that prevents ads from popping up because a lot of the internet, how websites make their money is from selling ad space, kind of like when you're driving by and you see ads across the street. It's the same thing. But what an ad blocker does, it basically says, nope, I don't want to see these ads anymore. And it doesn't allow the ads to interrupt what you're viewing. Now, this might be the most tricky term. It's a native app. A native app or native software is software that is specifically made for specific hardware. And no, might sound a little bit tricky, but Apple is the prime example of this. And throughout the course, I'll explain a little bit more once we have an expanded knowledge base on what a native app is. But just keep in mind, it is software that's made specifically for specific hardware. And if you tried to use that software with other hardware, you would be very hard pressed to make it work. That's all you need to know right now for native apps. Cookies, yum, 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 yum. No, not that type of cookies. Cookies are the stored information that a website collects when you go on a website. So once again, let's say you go on YouTube or even Netflix, for instance, they take little cookies, which are little bits and pieces of information, and that information tells the website that, oh, you've already viewed this video, so I'm not going to recommend it again. Same thing with Netflix, same thing with any streaming platform that you're using. Cookies also track a lot of information, and this has been a contentious battle on a global field in terms of how much data cookies should be collecting and how much information websites and tech companies should be gathering from you. But we'll talk a little bit more about that during privacy and security. Don't worry, hang in there with me. Caching. So, caching is what a website does or a web browser does. It downloads a little portion of a frequent website that you go to or a website that you've been to. So, the next time you go on that page, it loads a lot faster. So, that's all you basically need to know in terms of cookies and caches. That's it for terminology. Everything else, I will go into greater details if necessary, but that's a pretty good overview. If you want to review these terms a little bit slower, by any means or by all means, you can always hit rewind or pause. Section 2, devices, purchase decision, and utility. Device overview. So we're going to cover 4 main screens and devices. Number 1, smartphone, tablet, laptop, and desktop. So a smartphone, obviously, is a portable computer. Think about it as your computer on the go. It can do almost anything and everything. And as the years continue to go by, the more sophisticated these smartphones become. And the line between what was a computer and a smartphone are starting to blur just because the technology for both are so great. The biggest difference between a smartphone and I would say a laptop or a desktop computer is the amount of power or speed to run certain applications and software. That's about it. Everything else is pretty up to snuff in terms of how you can utilize these technologies. A tablet is a larger version of a smartphone, essentially, and it skews more and more closer to kind of a laptop or personal computer. And the biggest difference between a tablet and a smartphone typically is the mobile data capabilities. So if you wanted to buy a tablet that is mobile friendly, or you could use it somewhat kind of like your smartphone or your smart device, you typically would have to pay a little bit more to get the hardware necessary for it to connect with a service provider that provides internet. So those are basically the biggest difference between a smartphone and tablet. They're essentially the same technology, just the screen size and the internet capabilities are 2 of the biggest differences. Tablets aren't meant to be portable like smartphones either. So I know perhaps you might have caught some flack from your younger family members or friends when you have your big iPad out like that, trying to take a picture or something like that at a game or an event. That's fine, don't worry. But that's what they mean by it's not as portable. So the difference between a laptop and a desktop is a laptop's also called a notebook, or in Apple's situation, it's called a MacBook. It's a portable personal computer. We all know that. It has a keyboard attached to it. That's probably the primary difference, whereby tablets, you typically have to buy a separate accessory that you can connect in terms of a keyboard. A desktop is a personal computer, and the biggest difference between a desktop and a laptop or a MacBook and a desktop is the fact that you have to physically plug it in, and once again, it's not as portable. Operating systems. So what's an operating system? An operating system is a type of software that runs your device. So think about it once again as your vehicle. So you have your vehicle or you have your engine, and your engine would be your operating system because that's what gives power to everything else. That's what allows everything else to run within your vehicle. So there's a few different types of operating systems. The most common types are Apple's OS, stands for operating system, Windows, Microsoft, Android, Google, and Linux. So Linux is probably the one that you've never heard of or you've heard in passing. And what's interesting about Linux is Linux kind of hovers through all the different operating systems because it is what you would call open source. But we'll get to that in a second. Apple. Apple is a closed source operating system. This means they create their software and hardware, and they are almost the best in the world. They are probably the best in the world at creating these two together. So, once again, they create their software and their hardware specifically for each of their devices. There are some exceptions, such as iTunes, but Apple likes itself in a closed source ecosystem. And we'll talk about ecosystems in just a second. Windows also is somewhat of a closed source because they create software or the operating system, but they also license out their operating systems to different hardwares. So for instance, you might have a Windows HP computer, but you also might have a Windows Lenovo, and so on and so forth. So they create sometimes hardware and software, but oftentimes they also license out the Windows. So when Windows 98, the big one, or Windows 95 first came out, you had to buy the CD-ROM, pop it in, and it was maybe HP or some other hardware company that created those devices. So Apple doesn't ever play with that. Apple is strictly, we have our own software that runs on our own hardware. Android. Android's pretty new to the game. Google started as obviously a search engine, and then they started moving into the software space and a little bit into the hardware space. Google is open source and it runs on Linux. Linux is an open source system, meaning multiple people all around the world contribute to building this software. So think about it kind of like a art project. And if someone sees something that they want to add, they may take inspiration from what already exists and build upon it, and vice versa. So that's what Linux is. And then the governing body that is Linux decides, okay, this is really great innovation. Okay, let's move it here. But the governing body is actually the people and the developers that use the software. That's what Android is built on. But because Google sponsors Android, a lot of their devices run on Android OS, especially their mobile phones. So I know, once again, that might be a little bit complicated. It was for me when I first heard about all the nuances between the operating systems. But all you need to really know about these operating systems is some are open and some are closed. Open meaning multiple contributors, developers, and in the case of Linux and Android, Windows is closed, but they sometimes have contributors as well because of the licenses that they hand out to other companies. And Apple is completely closed, meaning they have their own software developers, their own hardware developers, and they marry those two together without any external help or add-ons. Some people do try to hack Apple every now and then, though. Apple versus Android versus Windows. What's the difference? To many people and the way technology is moving now, there aren't that many differences between the three of these operating systems. The major differences are within their ecosystems, and I'll touch on that in just a second. So let's see what these companies offer or what they provide in terms of devices on the software and the hardware side. So with Apple OS, you have your Macintosh, your Mac, your laptops and your desktops, you have your iPhone, you have your iPad, and then your wearable accessories such as your Apple Watch, your EarPods, and so on and so forth. We won't really go in too deep into those because those are accessories, and once you have one major device, you don't really need to worry about the rest of those. They just connect, which we will touch on in just a second. Microsoft and Windows, they have PC, laptop, and desktop. So that's their Windows Surface, which is a hybrid between a laptop and a tablet that has done extremely well for Windows, and Microsoft kind of brought them back into the game. They have the Windows smartphone, which has not been very successful, but some people still purchase them. And they have their wearable electronics. They actually don't make the hardware for their wearable electronics, but they also have some smart speakers and different things like that. Android, new to the game, they have their Chromebook. They don't have a desktop computer, but their Chromebook runs through their online operating system. Everything is on the cloud with them. So Google has their own servers where they run all these web apps and have their data centers and different things like that. A Chromebook, you absolutely need internet to run it initially. After that, then you can use the apps that you have downloaded on your Chromebook. So if you want to get a Chromebook, make sure you typically have internet access. They are far cheaper though, but we'll touch on that at the end when I provide some recommendations. They also have there are various tablets whereby they don't only make the hardware software, other people also make the hardware, most primarily Samsung. But they have their flagship phone, which is the Pixel phone, which is the rival to the iPhone. And they have wearable electronics that are similar to Apple's. So I would say Google's Android and Apple OS are probably in the biggest battle when it comes to the whole ecosystem that is their world. So what's the Windows ecosystem? So the Windows ecosystem is they have their cloud servers. And once again, a cloud server is what stores their information or runs their apps. You can think of a cloud server similarly to a department store. You have things coming in and going and you're replenishing it. And in order to know what you need next, you need to be communicating with the different devices and so on and so forth. So pretty simple. They have their Hotmail, they have their Office 365 and Azure. So what a tech ecosystem is all these devices can flawlessly work with one another, typically through a single sign-on. So single sign-on is when you have a Gmail account or when you have a Hotmail account, you can also sign in with that Hotmail account on Microsoft Exchange or Outlook. So once you go to one application or one software or one program, you can use those same login credentials all around. And within the Windows ecosystem, they know exactly who you are. So that's the benefit of the ecosystem. You typically only have to worry about remembering one password, and your devices start to learn how to interact with one another. So Windows ecosystem is not as robust as Android and Apple's, as you'll see. The Android ecosystem, this is probably one of the largest ecosystems because, and I'm going to say ecosystem a lot in these next few slides, and I apologize already for that. But essentially, if you have a Gmail account, you can log into YouTube. You don't need to make a separate account. If you have an Android phone, you can use that Gmail account to log into the Play Store. You can use that Gmail account to virtually do anything that is Google related. And what that allows for is when your devices are speaking to one another, they already know what you have. So for instance, let's say you have a Pixel phone and you want to set up your Gmail email. If you log into your Gmail account or your Google account, your Gmail will automatically receive that information and sync with your phone. So Apple was the first company which really innovated on this ecosystem thing, and now everyone is trying to catch up. Let's talk about the biggest player in the ecosystem wars, which is Apple. So Apple typically starts with the iPhone. Once you have their iPhone, they try to get you to buy more expensive devices, such as perhaps maybe a laptop or a desktop. And the reason why is because Apple has worked so hard to build these software and hardware to the point where they communicate with one another seamlessly. And the reason why they do that is, once again, they are closed. No, most other devices don't work as well with Apple as Apple devices. And this is done purposefully. So Apple has a lot of native apps. So one of them being their Mail app. So instead of allowing multiple different applications, they created their own Mail app where you can add different inboxes. So once again, you're not leaving their ecosystem. They're bringing your information to you. And because Apple is so powerful, other applications and softwares and companies typically have to abide to this. Same thing with their messaging app. And they were the first to use Apple CarPlay, taking it even further. So as soon as you get into your car, you plug it in, your screen shows your phone. And this has created some controversy whereby if some people see a green text message versus a blue text message, they are less likely to respond or send information and pictures, because green means that person does not have an iPhone and blue means that person has an iPhone. And there's more functionalities within the messaging app when both people have blue notifications. So it's very interesting. And Apple does this purposely, but there are some tremendous benefits to this. Once again, that single sign-on. Once you have your Apple ID, you can literally do anything via Apple. You can set up your payments. You can ask Siri to do payments. You can ask your smart speaker to do different things. And when everything is integrated, from your Apple Watch to your EarPods to your laptop to your computer to your vehicle, it becomes very difficult to leave this ecosystem because all your other devices are connected to it. So this is what tech companies are really working towards, is making your life as easy as possible and as convenient as possible. So when you try to leave, it is very difficult. So there's two schools of thought to that. People think, oh, they're trying to make your life better. Others think they're trying to kill competition. I'll let you decide. Let's move on to connecting devices. This may be one of the most difficult portions, getting your device to connect to another device. I'm going to say this now. The best thing you can typically do is turning it off, powering it completely off, unplugging it, holding the buttons to make sure your device completely turns off, and turning it back on. If that doesn't work, then you get into the nitty-gritty and start Googling and YouTubing different things. But let's go through how devices are connected. So there's two ways. There's wirelessly and there's hardline. Wireless refers to Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, mobile data, and any form of electronic connection that is not physical. A hardline refers to a cord that directly connects with your device. So let's go through wireless. Wireless can be Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, or mobile data, as I said. So what is Bluetooth? Bluetooth is short range connections. Typically, there are strong Bluetooth connections, but they don't really exceed over, I would say, 10 to 5 meters on average. There are some that can go 30 or 50 meters, but those are pretty good and typically very expensive devices. A Bluetooth connection is a personal network. You can also use it to transfer files from short range and connect to your most favorite accessories, and that's typically where the most issues lie, and other smart devices. So Bluetooth is pretty standard. Apple calls their Bluetooth AirDrop, and with their AirDrop system, you can literally copy and paste from your web browser on your phone directly to your laptop if, once again, you are connected within that ecosystem. Wi-Fi, most people know what Wi-Fi is mid to short range. It can travel a lot further typically than Bluetooth. And especially if you have an extender, which is just a fancy way of saying amplifying your internet connection within your home. So that's a local area network connection. The big thing about Wi-Fi is when you are signing into those free Wi-Fi connections, be careful because sometimes if you log in, people can actually go in and take some information depending on the network. Airports are pretty safe, but other networks try not to open up personal or sensitive information while you are on those unsecure networks. But for the most part, you're safe. Personal or public networks, that's exactly what I just spoke about. Various speeds, they come from 2G all the way to the 5G. 5G just means the speed that it's downloading your information. So the faster the speed, the faster you get the information on your laptop or your personal device. And smart device connectivity. If all your devices are on the same Wi-Fi connection, a lot of times that's how you can turn on and off lights. That's how you can turn on your television. That's how basically you create a smart home is through your Wi-Fi connection. Mobile data is long range, obviously. The famous Rogers commercial. Can you hear me now? This was proving how their mobile data connection is so expansive all throughout Canada. This is primarily for mobile devices, but a lot of new devices sometimes do have a hot stick or a rocket stick, basically, that gives you internet connectivity. And data packages come in various speeds depending where you are. Once again, typically between that 2G to 5G range. So most devices built after 2016 have Bluetooth, which is great, meaning you can share information from one device to another device. You can connect your favorite headphones, you can connect your Apple Watch or other devices. And that just makes life a lot easier. So what's a hard line? Hard lines are power cords. So that is short range power source, the ability to create a local network as well. A lot of people don't know this, but if you have your mobile data enabled phone, you can actually plug it in to your laptop and it will, if you allow it or if you enable it, it will allow you to have internet from your computer. Once again, you can also do that wirelessly using your phone as a mobile hotspot. But we're not going to get into the details of that. This is just the abilities that you have. Wireless charging. Wireless charging, simply put, you just put your device on that platform and it charges your device. Pretty simple. Hardline types. So we have the iPhone Lightning USB. Throughout this course, you're going to realize Apple likes to do its own thing. And because they're the industry leader, they kind of get away with it, but they do it in the name of innovation. So the Lightning USB is only unique to basically Apple. Most other mobile devices have a USB-C or a USB-C or a USB micro, and those are the most common for mobile devices in all of Europe. Most of the time, apart from the iPhone, you will get a USB-C. So for your computer, they vary depending on how much power your computer actually needs in terms of a hard line. Display and accessibility. The fantastic thing about new developments within technology is most companies and most operating systems have display and accessibility options. So whether that's starting or turning on dictations or increasing the font size on your devices, these can typically be found. It varies a little bit from device to device, but this can be found within the settings section of any of your smart devices. So today we're going to focus on Apple and Android's settings to increase the font size and even turn on some accessibility modes. So with Apple, they have their Macintosh, which is their MacBook and their desktop computers, the iMac. And with their mobile devices or their smartphones, they have the iPhone and the iPad. So for their Macintosh, what you want to do is you want to go to the top of your screen and you want to find the little cursor button and literally type in display. Once you do that, the little icon that shows the Apple display will pop up. And then you want to click the top left tab where it says display. And then you will be able to choose what size between larger, default, and more space for your best viewing experience. So this is really easy. Apple does this better than anyone else. And because they use a design and a user-friendly approach when they're building these software, apart from more so than any other company, in my opinion. The same thing for their iPhone. So you go to your settings function, you click accessibility, and then you go to display and text size. And from there, you'll be able to increase, decrease, and also play around with different settings. If you want some other functionalities, there are other things that you can do, and we will touch on that hopefully in a future course. Microsoft Windows PC, laptop, and desktop, they have a similar thing. If you find the little Windows icon on the bottom of your screen, what you want to do, once again, is just simply search display. Tech companies have made this very easy and they've made this a priority, which is great because before it was like looking for a needle in a haystack. Once again, on Android smartphones, if you can find the settings tab and search up accessibility, you'll be able to change these functionalities as well. So that's basically it for displays and accessibility. Once again, each unique device may have a little bit of tweaks and changes, but if you're dealing with one ecosystem, these devices or these platforms will have similar steps to changing these settings. Smart assistants or personal assistants. Hey Alexa, hey Google, hi Siri. These are the three major smart assistants or personal assistants. But what are they? They are considered intelligent virtual assistants or IVA or intelligent personal assistants IPA. And it's a software agent or a software that performs tasks or services based on an individual's commands or questions. So this is pretty new technology and it's rapidly moving fast because it's super convenient, and anything that is convenient, typically users tend to like. So there's a battle going on right now between Amazon, Google, and Apple for the best assistant. So the biggest difference is Amazon's Alexa requires a smart speaker because they don't have any devices that naturally hold Amazon. So unlike Google and Apple, which have phones and laptops and desktops and different things like that, Amazon does not. So the biggest difference is Alexa needs its own smart speaker, but it still has Bluetooth compatibility and smart device connectivity, which means you can hook up other devices such as a device that can turn on and off your thermostat, turn it up, turn it down, turn your lights on and off, which is super cool. And then you can download the Alexa app, which will allow you to turn on your devices from anywhere that has internet connectivity, essentially. That holds true with Apple and Siri's devices as well, but the biggest difference is that convenience piece because most people are already used to using Google and Siri. So Google Assistant is available on their mobile and their desktop devices, of course. It does not require purchase of an individual smart speaker, but that experience enhances, of course, if you do. And it has smart device connectivity. This also holds true with Siri's, which also does not require a smart speaker, but Apple does manufacture its own smart speakers as well. So these are the big three players, and essentially they just make your life a little bit easier. You can ask them questions like, hey, do this, hey, do that, and they're listening. Throughout each section of this course, there's going to be a big emphasis on privacy and security. And the reason for this is because when you're navigating online networks, there can be a little bit of a risk if you don't know what to watch out for. So here we go. The internet can be scary and it may seem dangerous. However, there are many ways to safeguard yourself and keep your information private. Below are some high level recommendations while you are online. Don't click or respond to links or messages you're unfamiliar with. Even go a little bit further sometimes if you receive an email from someone you're not sure of, and check what their email says, especially their at whatever.com. That could help you a lot to figure out if someone's a scam, or sometimes what people do is they'll put a name of a reputable company or corporation, and then as soon as you click in the email, it might be a whole bunch of numbers and different symbols. And that's a really good way to know if someone is legit or illegitimate or trying to do fraud. But we'll touch on that deeper into the course when we break down email. If an offer seems too good to be true online, especially when it's ads, I'm sorry to break it to you. No one is ever going to be giving you $1 million. No one is an ex-prince or king or anything like that. These are all scams and they're becoming more and more sophisticated. I myself have almost fallen victim for them. So beware. If someone is giving you something for free that you did not enter, it is typically a scam or fraud. Don't provide personal or financial information to websites unless it's from a trusted provider. If you think something's fishy, if someone gets your phone number or calls you from the internet and says it's an email or it's an email exchange, try to go to that company's website and call them first before you release any information or financial information. But the good rule of thumb is just don't release it at all, especially via email. Your bank will never ask for your banking number, your card number, or different things like that because they already have it. So keep those things in mind and you will surf the web a lot easier with a lot more peace of mind. Purchase decision, the $1 million question. What device should I buy? Which company? What brand? Well, let's run through what we can do. Laptops and desktops. So the biggest things and the pros of each. Apple by far has the best software to hardware combination. It also has the best digital ecosystem and connectivity, meaning if you have one device, it works well. If you have two, it works even better. And those devices are always communicating with one another almost seamlessly. You also have on your desktop computer something called Preview. And what Preview is, or Quick Look is, it shows you your file folds or it shows you your files without actually clicking or opening your files. Because once you open your files, it uses memory on your computer. Think about memory as your muscles, and it strains your computer a little bit, and sometimes it might take a while to see what's actually in the document. But with Quick Look and Preview, it allows you to actually go through the entire document quite easily, quite quickly, without sacrificing any memory. And that's because of their software hardware combination. They also have a little bit more secure of an ecosystem with fewer viruses. This is also due to less overall Apple products being out there. So when it comes to hackers and spammers, they typically don't really go for Apple products as much. Once again, the reason is it's a little bit more difficult because it's a closed ecosystem, because guess Apple makes its own software and hardware. So it is a lot harder to compromise that system because they have safeguarded it so. They honestly have the best customer service and are faster on average, just because Apple would be similar to the luxury brand if you were to buy a vehicle. Microsoft Windows, average is awesome. They have a lower cost on average. Obviously, you can build up your computer and you can customize it, and it might be more expensive, but typically on average, they do have a lower cost. they have the most extensive selection. So if you're trying to find that perfect computer that comes to your perfect specifications, you could probably find it out there with Microsoft Windows. And they have a really cool PC slash tablet combination with their Windows Surface. Chromebooks are new in the game. I think they're about 5 to 8 years old. They are by far the cheapest, and they have that nice tablet to PC combination. So they're all good options. It's just more about what you want. And do you have other devices that are already part of that ecosystem? Because if you're bringing a new device, it may not work quite well, especially if it's Apple. But if you're already in the Apple ecosystem, or you want to start with an Apple ecosystem, that may be the route you want to take. So the cons of Apple are it's extremely expensive when compared to the others. And there is a little bit of a small learning curve for new users. Microsoft Windows, like I said, because it's a little bit more open, they are more prone to viruses, and there is a little bit of a lack of a quality control because they are not creating all their hardware, but they are creating the software. So sometimes the hardware software mix doesn't merge perfectly. Chromebook, relatively new, so there's no enterprise applications for it, meaning there's no real big businesses that are using Chromebook. And there is a very small selection of software just because it hasn't been around for as long. So developers haven't created all the applications and softwares for Chromebook, but it's Google. So be rest assured, it's one of the biggest companies in the world. They will start to develop those. So smartphones, once again, Apple has the best software to hardware combination. They also have the best digital app store, which allows them to not only build apps that are more secure because of their stringent policies, but they also have the most selection because they essentially innovated the space that is app stores. They have the best digital ecosystem and connectivity. Once again, if you have two Apple devices, they will function seamlessly with a single sign-on. They are faster on average, and they're typically the most secure, especially in the mobile device space. Apple is the most secure. It used to be BlackBerry, but unfortunately they went out of business. But now Apple leads the space in privacy and security. Microsoft Windows, average lower cost. They have like a weird tablet phablet kind of combination. It's called a phablet. It's a phone and a tablet, which is cool for some people because you get the larger screen. Android, they have the greatest price range. You can find a really good Android phone for about $100 and something, and then you can find a really souped up expensive one for that premium Apple price as well. And they have the greatest customization, and they also have a really cool ability within their Play Store because they just have more app developers, because once again, they are more open source because they run on Linux. So that's the difference between those three smartphones. So what are the cons of these smartphones and tablets? Well, with Apple OS, once again, it's extremely expensive compared to the other ones on average. There is a small learning curve. Microsoft Windows, there's just lack of quality control. I don't really know how much they care about their smartphone side. They've really invested into their tablet slash hybrid tablet laptop combination with their Windows Surface computers or Microsoft Surface. And Android, once again, because it's more open source, there's just a lack of quality control for their cons. So what are my recommendations? Like I said before, if you already have a few devices within an ecosystem and you're happy, it's just much easier to stay with that company. If you don't mind spending more, Apple is typically more recommended just because they spend so much time on their user experience and their ecosystem, their software to hardware relationship is absolutely seamless. If you're on a budget and simply want simple connectivity, Windows and Android you can't really go wrong anymore, especially with Android. Windows is a little bit difficult. We don't know how long they'll stick around, but if you just want something that works, Android is probably your best recommendation. If you want something that's more long term and more solid once again, and you want to bring it into an ecosystem as your first device, definitely Apple's the way to go. But those are my opinions. I urge you to always do your own research, but make sure you watch different testimonials, watch YouTube and different things like that to help you find that device that works for you. Section 3, apps, software, and email. In this section, we'll help you build on the knowledge from section 1, 2, and help you identify which applications, software, and email providers are the best for your needs. Within the app, software, and email world, they're all actually software. So the difference between applications and software are nothing. They're virtually synonymous. An application is a type of software. But when you start to contract the word application and call it an app, you're typically talking about software that is on a mobile device, so they shorten it to apps. Email is a form of a web application or web software that can be an application as well. I know this might sound confusing. I know the first time I heard it, I was like, what are you saying? But essentially, all you need to remember is think about it kind of like those Russian dolls. Software is the big umbrella, then your apps are within that, and then the type of app or the specific app is within there. So you have software, apps, and email. And then furthermore, within email, you can have different service providers as well. So Google and Apple have their own app stores, but the internet is also considered the biggest app store. Apple's app store is called the App Store, and Google's app store is called the Play Store. When it comes to email, there's kind of two types of emails. There's your native, and then there's your cross-platform. Surprise, surprise, Apple's mail app is only native to Apple devices, meaning you cannot download an Apple Mail app on a non-Apple device. Whereby with Google and Microsoft and those other email providers, you can directly download those programs and applications on any of your devices. And the reason why Apple does this, keeps it native, is because they want you to stay in their ecosystem. And how they combat this is they allow you to add other inboxes within the mail app. So you can have multiple service providers within your mail app. So it makes up for it, and it's very, very convenient. All right, let's talk apps and software. App stores, like I mentioned, Apple has its App Store, but it also has its iTunes. The App Store is native to Apple devices, but iTunes, as you know, are cross-platform, meaning you can have the iTunes Store on your PC or different devices, which is very interesting and quite rare for Apple sometimes. But because iTunes is based more on entertainment and music, they kind of say, yeah, you know what, that's okay. We'll still make our money and people will come back into our ecosystem. Google Play, they don't really play those kind of games, no pun intended. They just have an expansive library. And remember, a lot of Google applications are open source, meaning their Google Play Store don't have the same stipulations that are required of the App Store, because Google is more or less open source, whereas Apple is closed. So the internet is actually the biggest app store. You can virtually find any application and download it, especially from your desktop or laptop. On mobile devices, not all applications are mobile friendly. So that's typically why you have your Google Play Store and your Apple App Store, because that's a direct gateway to figure out which applications you can use directly on your devices. If ever you're questioning or you want a specific app and you're not sure, the easiest way is just to copy it and put it in Google, and it should let you know if there's a mobile friendly version or if it is accessible from your mobile device or your desktop. Mobile apps, like I said, there's native versus cross-platform. So a native app such as the Mail app, the Messengers app, and the iMessage app and the Photos app on Apple are all native, meaning you can't download the Apple's Photos app on other applications. They live within the Apple cloud, in the Apple servers, in the Apple ecosystem. Whereas with Google, which is a more open system, they have abilities to download the Google Photos app and all these Google Drive functionalities as well, cross-platform, meaning I can still get my Google Drive app on my Apple device, but I can't get my Apple applications on my Google device. Very interesting. Apple is that powerful. And we'll finish off with video conferencing applications. So we have Zoom, Google Meetups, FaceTime, Skype, Microsoft Teams, and WebEx. I'll go into that in the next slide with a little bit more detail, but essentially the biggest difference are personal to enterprise use, meaning am I using it for my day-to-day, hanging out with my friends or talking or communicating to my friends, or is it a corporate structure or businesses utilizing it? Those are basically the two main differences between the different video conferencing apps. Let's take a closer look at the different video conferencing platforms. We'll start with Zoom, the most popular due to the pandemic, Google Meetups, the most convenient web app, FaceTime, the most convenient for Apple users, but they're slowly building out their enterprise and their B2B market, Skype, the market innovator, kind of the OG video conferencing provider. Microsoft Teams is a full suite app. WebEx, security first. So Zoom got popular and is synonymous with the entire industry. And because of that, they're the market leader. They also have a application you can download, a desktop app and a mobile app. And also you can use their web platform. Most people don't even know about their web platform. They believe you just have to download the app, but they do that because they can receive more data with the application on your devices. Google Meetups is a complete web app that all you need is a Gmail account. Once you have that, you can share your link with anyone else. And if they click that link, they'll be able to join you via the internet. So there's nothing needed to be downloaded. So that's basically the biggest distinction. Whenever I refer to a web app, it means you don't have to download anything, or there might be minimum things that you need to download. And then a regular app, typically you have to download the software onto your device to be able to utilize it. So for instance, FaceTime is a native app, meaning it's only available on Apple devices, but they have started to build out their B2B market or their enterprise market, whereby they're doing something similar to Google Meetups, whereby if you have an Apple device, you can send a link that non-Apple users can use the web application version to join you online. Microsoft Teams is not just video conferencing. It's a full suite of tools. and it's more like a social hub slash enterprise communications. It has multiple functionalities, but their main goal is enterprise, meaning business focus. And then WebEx, this is what most major banks or corporations use. It's the most secure. They don't really need to worry about anything other than that. But in terms of video conferencing, that's about it. It's pretty straightforward. We love when it works, and when it doesn't, we want to complain about it. But the key things to remember is if you are having lags or troubles with your video conferencing, the best thing you can do is try to find a hard line. So if you are using Wi-Fi, if you can find your Ethernet cord, that's the fat phone cord that connects to the back of your router or to the back of your modem. If you can plug that in directly to your computer, your service or your stream and your upload will be a lot more stable. So that's the tip I'll give you for the video conferencing. But in terms of functionality, they basically all work the same. It's about preference or whatever you're used to. Email. So as I've said previously, email comes in the form of a native app or a cross-platform app. So Apple Mail app is the Apple Mail app. And Apple likes to keep things simple like that by not really renaming anything and just sticking Apple in front of it. Once again, because it's a native app, it's only available on Apple devices. So that means you have the ability to add multiple service providers within the Mail app, and it's convenient. So that's how they make up for that. Microsoft Outlook and Office 365 are available on most online apps. They also have web apps as well, whereby you can log in, and it's super easy and simple. Once again, because it's cross-platform, you can have Microsoft Outlook and Office 365 on the Mac or non-Mac computers because it's cross-platform. Same thing with Google, which is probably the most popular email service, and it's compatible with Google Chrome. So those are the big differences within your mail applications. There are other types of mail applications, but typically the only differences that occur is if you wanted to change the @. So meaning if I wanted to have an email that finished with wilfred@wilfred.ca, I would have to pay for the @.ca. But apart from that, these email providers are quite simple. And the best thing is they're free. And the only one that's kind of out of scope is Apple's Mail app. And the reason why is because they want to keep you in their ecosystem, which you will find is a very common theme throughout Apple devices and Apple's entire platform. Apart from that, very straightforward. Privacy and security. Unfortunately, whenever we start the conversation with applications, software, and email, these are the most vulnerable places on the internet. And the reason why is you trust these things. You trust them to work and you trust the information that you receive. But I will try to help you with some tips and tricks to navigate these vulnerabilities so you don't get compromised. Just a reminder, apps can gather and share large amounts of data. Make sure you only provide your location, camera, listening capabilities to apps you trust. I'll repeat that one more time. Only provide your location, camera, listening capabilities to apps you trust. And if you're unsure how to turn that on and off, you can go into your settings on your mobile device and simply go to the application and turn off different settings such as that. If you need a little bit more help, make sure you email me or text me or send me a quick note and we'll try to figure it out. Always beware that nothing is truly gone forever on the internet. Even if it says it'll vanish, that data is typically still stored somewhere in the cloud. So be careful what you post. My rule of thumb is if my mother saw it and I had to explain it, would I be okay with it? And if it's a yes, then I post it. If it's a no, I say hold up and we move on. Try to always read the fine print. Use a burner email whenever you're unsure with a service provider, and try to change and update your password every 6 months. And the one that probably stuck out to you that you probably haven't heard is the burner email. So what's a burner email? A burner email is an email address that you use for contests, sweepstakes, and all the weird fun stuff that you might be doing on the internet. And the reason why you do that is if that email address were to be compromised, you would not lose any sleep because it's not tied to your real name. It's not tied to any personal information. So how do you create a burner email? Well, simple. Go to Google or Hotmail or whichever email provider, find a name that you like, create that email. It can be whatever or anything, literally, and then use that email for whenever you're unsure or whenever you're doing quote unquote fun things on the internet, such as maybe entering contests or things that may bombard you with junk mail or subscriptions that you didn't actually subscribe to. Your main email or your professional, and you may have two more emails, you can utilize that to kind of connect that to your bank accounts and your more sensitive information, because you know that email is only being shared with a small number of people. And if they have that email, it's far more trusted. If you're still a little bit fishy on the emails that you receive, simply don't open it. Look where it's from. Try to identify the name and then the email, because sometimes it might say RBC, but as soon as you click the email, it's a whole bunch of numbers and a whole bunch of other weird things. So make sure you look at the actual email that sent you the email, and that will allow you to help and see if it's legitimate or it's fraud or it's something else. And if still you're in doubt, go to the company's website and look for a phone number, or use your credit card or use the back of your credit card to call the 1-800 number or whichever company sent that email. This will help you navigate and definitely save you from a lot of headaches. The burner email is probably the best thing that I do. That way my inbox doesn't have any junk mail. And every now and then, if I do miss an email, I can just simply check my junk mail in my main or my professional page. If for whatever reason it ended up in junk, and I'll say, oh, that wasn't supposed to be there, instead of sifting through hundreds and thousands of emails. So if I were you, I would definitely create a burner email to surf the web and then prioritize your main email address for different operations that you really care about, especially as we move on to social media. Section 4, Internet and websites. Let's surf the web, let's search the web, let's get on the web. Topics: browser selection, ad blockers, websites, and pages. A browser is an application that allows you to surf the web, access the internet. Think about it like toothbrushes. You know what? Think about it like cars. They all do the same thing, but individuals may have personal preferences that help them get to their destination. So there's not many differences, but we're going to review the following categories: security, speed, native versus cross-platform applications, plugins, and customization or customizability. Customizability, that's a word. Here's a fun little skit. So when Internet Explorer first came out, it was basically one of the first web browsers and everyone loved it. But Chrome, Firefox, Safari, and Opera decided to step up their games or their development. And then Internet Explorer became a laughingstock because of how slow it was. That's not the case anymore. Edge, which got rid of Internet Explorer, is much faster and great web browser. Most web browsers are now phenomenal. So the most popular web browsers, let's go through them real quick. So there's Mozilla Firefox, which is arguably one of the most popular. It's not the biggest, we'll save that for down the list, but it's cross-platform and it has great privacy protection. Microsoft Edge, formerly Microsoft or Internet Explorer, is cross platform. It's extremely fast now and it has great privacy protection tools. Google Chrome, the most popular one, is cross platform. It's fast, but the only issue with it, it's quite a heavy application to run. So, what does that mean? You might hear this statement, though, that software is really heavy or that application is really heavy. What that means is it takes a lot of, let's use the car analogy, it takes a lot of horsepower for it to run, meaning it conserves or it uses more energy to do similar tasks such as other web browsers. So Google Chrome is a heavy user, and the reason why it's quite robust and they have different plugins, and depending on what you're doing, it may be using more energy than your other web browsers. Then we have Apple Safari. This is, guess, it's a native app, meaning you can't get Safari on any device that is not Apple. Yep, the Apple way, once again, within that ecosystem. And then we have Opera, which is cross-platform and great security features. But what's great about Apple, Safari, and Chrome, and I believe Firefox and Edge are now creating these devices or functionality, is something Apple has coined Apple handoff. So let's say you're using your mobile device or your iPad, your Apple iPhone or your iPad, and you want to continue on your laptop. All you have to do is send that page to your laptop and it will be on that specific page and you can continue doing your work. It's that simple. Once again, that's part of that Apple ecosystem. Chrome and other applications have now started to integrate, or other browsers have now started to integrate that same functionality. But Apple is typically the innovator in that space, makes it super easy. For instance, I'm working on my phone, I throw it to my iPad, I get tired of my iPad, and now it's on my laptop, and it is absolutely seamless. So what are the pros and cons? Well, Safari is native. It's only for Mac and iOS, Mac OS, iOS. Firefox, cross-platform. It has the mobile ability and the desktop ability. Chrome, the most popular. It has all the capabilities. Edge is quite new, but there's been great reviews. It's definitely better than Explorer, and people are really happy about that. And Opera is kind of like an odd one. It used to be a lot larger and now it's still loved by some, but it's not as mainstream. So one of the biggest things is Edge or Internet Explorer are still one of the biggest, if not the biggest, web browsers because they are native to Microsoft or Windows applications. So remember, Microsoft does things kind of funny. They'll create the software and sometimes the hardware and then license it out. But every Windows computer or Windows hardware will have Microsoft Edge as their default. So even if you don't know you're on a Microsoft Edge or Internet Explorer, you typically are unless you are on an Apple device. So by that alone, they stay in the game. Let's talk about one of the most amazing applications or software, ad blockers. So what's an ad blocker? An ad blocker is a piece of software designed to prevent advertisements from appearing on a web page, prevent annoying pop-ups, and most are browser plugins, which is really nice and easy. So an ad blocker is basically exactly what it is. It blocks ads. And this is a lifesaver when it comes to some websites that will bombard you with literally 1,000 apps in like a minute. And the reason why they do that is as soon as you see that app for perhaps a time frame or you click on one of them, that web provider gets paid. Hence, click per pay or click or view per pay. So the differences vary accordingly, and they're based on security, speed, free versus paid. Within these three categories, you will find very small nuances. For the most part, they're all the same, and they're typically plugins that sit on top of your web browser. So the most popular ad blockers are AdBlock Plus. It's cross-platform, it's quick setup, and it loads on your website very quickly, meaning sometimes if an ad blocker is too slow, the website will hit you with a whole bunch of pop-ups before the ad blocker starts to work. Another one called AdBlock, of no relation to AdBlock Plus. Super funny copyright and naming issues there, but that's beyond the fact. That's also cross-platform. It has an internal filter list for sites with heavy ads, meaning it has already compiled like frequently visited websites, and it says, okay, well, we know this website is notorious for bombarding people with ads. And what it does is their algorithm picks that up and says, okay, we're going to push away those apps as quickly as possible. It works the same way, but it's nice because the ad blocker doesn't have to learn and it doesn't have to prepare for the ads. It already knows that website is going to have heavy ads. The next one is Popper Blocker. It's only for Chrome, and it's designed to accompany pop-up blockers as an extra layer of protection. So there's the apps, there's the ads and the ad blocker. So the ad blocker blocks the ads that come up, but there's also those little annoying ones that are typically on the side of your screen. And that's what the popper blocker is. It's an application that is on your browser that is on your ad block application. Pretty funny. It's an app on an app on an app. And the more sophisticated you get, you realize a lot of apps actually do this. And then there's Sans Fair Ad Block, which is also only on Chrome. It's very fast, very effective. And then there's uBlock Origin, which is for Chrome and Firefox only, and it's dual platform. It has malware protection. So for the most part, you can download every single one of them, except if you're using Safari. And the reason why these ad blockers don't work on Safari is because, once again, it's a closed system, and Apple does this deliberately because it wants to mitigate its risk. And that's why they're some of the safest and most secure devices, Apple devices. Websites and pages. Websites can be anything and everything. We will use the University of Manitoba Center of Aging websites and web pages for this section, as they are our primary funders for staying connected. Thank you, Center of Aging. Without you, staying connected would not be possible. So let's get into it. Cookies and privacy statements. So for whatever reason, 2018, every website you might start seeing, do you accept these cookies? And the reason why is an 88-page document that outlined privacy and security requirements for anyone providing goods and services in the EU was launched. And for the longest time, tech companies and tech industries did not need to abide by the rules and laws of the physical realm. But lawmakers caught up and started to realize, you know what? Wow, they can use this data to interpret a lot and build a lot and influence a lot. So maybe we need to get it under control. So there's two schools of thought. Some people are really about it and some people are really against it. But for the sake of this course, it's good just to know. The number one website in the world is, by no surprise, Google, then followed by Facebook, YouTube, and then everything else. And guess why Google? Because Google is synonymous with searching, and searching is what you do on the web, on the internet. You surf and surf. Search and surf. So, what are cookies? Cookies, we've already touched on this a little bit, but let's get a little bit deeper. There's small bits of information that is tracked when you are online. Some organizations, such as Facebook and Google, have faced privacy infringement due to collecting this data without explicit consent. So, meaning you can start to predict because Wilfred likes track and field and Wilfred likes the color blue. So, if I'm Google and I want to spend or make more ad dollars, because remember, Google is a tech company, but they're also the biggest ad agency in the entire world. So instead of saying, okay, well, we'll just throw a whole bunch of products at Wilfred, they might go to Nike and say, hey, we know about 1 million Wilfreds that like blue Nike shoes. How much would you be willing to pay to directly market or directly make ads specific to these Wilfreds at this age, at this demographic, from this country? And all this data is what they have. Once again, remember the whole ecosystem. As soon as you type in your Google email, you may have put in your birthday, your name, and things like that. And then these cookies are tracked, and then Google has the opportunity to take that information because it knows you went to go look for blue Nike shoes. And now it can take that information and say, hey, Nike, I got 1 million customers that love blue Nike shoes. If you want to market to them, it costs this much. And Nike's going to say, of course, that's the easiest sale ever. So this is where the controversy comes. Is it helpful or is it unethical? I'll let you decide. But just know cookies are those little bits of data that the website or the company or the tech company takes to provide and create a persona for you. .what, .ca, .com, .how. Yes, there's probably a .how. How a website ends is extremely important because it determines what type of content is going to be on that page. So for instance, .ca means Canadian, .usa means USA, .eu means European Union. So the different nuances are actually identifiers in terms of category. .com is the most common and the most popular. Then comes .net, which is typically in substitute of .com if that name is not available. .org is probably the best place to get real credible information because they're not for commercial use, which is what .com stands for. So .org typically has different stipulations to having that .org, and it's usually educational or a primary source of information, and typically related to not-for-profit and non-commercial use, as I said. And obviously, once again, .ca is for Canada. So we log into the Center of Aging website homepage, umanitoba.ca/Center of Aging, and you see that brown bar at the bottom of your screen, and it asks you if you agree to these cookies. You can open that up, and it's a statement just saying how your data will be collected and used. It's not very long, it's quite simple, and you can simply click, okay, I agree. You don't have to, but if you click into the statement, you can also change your settings as well. But the University of Manitoba is a secure website, and it's a great tool for a lot of different things, especially the Center of Aging. So accepting or declining cookies. Most of the times cookies are no big deal. There are a few occasions though where you should decline or decide not to accept cookies. Situations should decline are as follow. When you're on an unfamiliar or odd website and this site will not have a lock symbol, it will be an unsecure site. So if you look at the slide, you'll see that lock, the padlock is locked. If it was an unsecure site, you would see that it would be unlocked. So umanitoba.ca/center dash on dash aging is a secure website. So what these websites typically do is they collect small data points, as I've already addressed, but a malicious website may take that data and share it with a third party. And that's how your junk email gets all funky, because you're like, I never subscribed to goats that can eat a lot of cheese.com. Horrible example, but for instance, that's what some cookies do and some websites do. They collect your data and then they ship it off to someone else because they're compiling email lists. There's ways to navigate this. Once again, you can either go in incognito or use private browsing mode, whereby it doesn't track your cookies, or purchase a virtual private network called a VPN. So we'll go into that in a future course, what a VPN is, but it's similar to an ad blocker. It's an extension or an application that sits on your web browser that allows you to surf the web anonymously, because there's no tracking to your IP address, which is similar to like your identification on the internet. So surfing the web, the possibilities of the internet are literally endless. Don't know where to start? Type in a topic, thing, or place in Google or YouTube, and literally you're on your way. So don't be afraid to play around, search, have fun on the web. Just make sure you're not sharing any private information, and that should keep you safe and secure for the most part. But if you are searching something, you need to keep these things in mind. The first few options on both Google and YouTube may be ads. You want to scroll below that. And if you are unsure of a thing, try to use keywords with quotations around it. So for instance, if I wanted a specific pair of socks that I saw, I would put in quotation, purple socks, bunny ears. And if you do that, it will search the entire website for that exact phrase. So once again, let's say I wanted a pet duck. So then I would put in quotation, pet ducks. And then it will bring up the most relevant search results for that pet duck search. So don't be afraid to use those quotation marks. They will narrow down your search. There's multiple other ways to narrow down your search, but that's the fastest and easiest way. So back to the Nike search. I searched up Nike shoes. So it takes about 1, 2, 3. The fourth search result is a result that is not an ad. If you see on the side on the left there, you'll see ad. So you have Sport Check and Foot Locker after Nike.com, because these are all competing to be your purchase decision. They're all competing for you to purchase from them to be their customer. Center of Aging. So what's wonderful about the Center of Aging website, you don't need to worry about anyone selling you anything. There's a lot of amazing events, and there's a lot of research, student opportunities, and community partners. There's a great speaker series that you can get involved in. So make sure you check out the website there. Once again, those cookies being tracked are great because they're not getting sent to a third party. It's the University of Manitoba. We're trusted, and that's a phenomenal thing. And so go explore the Center of Aging website and let us know what you think. Privacy and security. Well, with the website and Internet of Things, you always want to be safer. When you're exploring websites, have fun, but take caution. I'll say this once again, don't ever give private or personal information. As long as you create strong passwords and read as much of the agreements as possible, I know those fine prints can be long, you won't have to be worried about compromising your computer. The great thing also with modern day computers and devices, if your computer or system does get compromised, there are safeguards to protecting your information. But Like I said, create strong passwords and don't release your private information. Many banking and sensitive information apps now have dual authentication, which is a great extra level of security, which essentially, if you log in and you enter your password, you can also set it up so it sends you a notification on your phone with a code so you can log in. Read as much as the fine print as possible. Use a burner email when unsure. Change your passwords every 6 months. Browse privately if something looks odd. And if a page downloads something you did not mean to download, immediately delete that document and absolutely do not open it. Curiosity when it comes to emails and website pop-ups are not a great thing. So if it just pops up at you and you didn't make that action, stay away from it. And safe surfing, but I trust you will have fun and learn a lot and utilize the internet, especially the Center of Aging website, to your advantage. Welcome to section 5, the final section. Congratulations, you're almost there. This is probably one of the most utilized platforms on the internet today. Social networks, aka social media. So let's go through the topics that we will be covering in this section. YouTube, Facebook and Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, and a few others. These are some of the most popular apps today, and some of them, like TikTok, are growing exponentially. So, what is social media? Few of us kind of heard the term or grew up with it and understand it from a broad stroke, but essentially all social media is a digital community where people can interact with technologies, share information, and that's about it. But the differences between each platform typically vary on audio versus visual versus text, images or video, and the length of content allowed to be shared on that platform. Web-based versus desktop versus mobile apps. So with these 4 categories, that's what differentiates these social media apps. Apart from that, they all have that fundamental same community or digital-based community. So let's get started. Let's kick off this section with one of my favorites and arguably the most useful platform on the internet, YouTube. Many people don't view YouTube as a social media app because it's more of an entertainment. You watch it and that's it. But there is a strong community of people that comment in the comment sections, a lot of creators, and with some new developments and tools on YouTube, they are moving more in that realm with something called shorts, which are short, really concise videos that are made specifically by creators for entertainment value. But the functionalities of YouTube are as presented. It's a cross-platform, meaning you can use it on any device. It's available virtually on any screen with an internet connection. And if you do choose to buy YouTube Plus, you can also actually download some movies on it. So that's pretty cool, and some people don't know about that. Entertainment based, meaning it's really about viewing and being entertained. And the nice thing about it also is no account is necessary to view the content. So you don't have to sign up. And that is probably why YouTube is one of the most popular applications or websites in the entire world. I think it's still number 1 in the world for most visited web page, apart from Google search and Facebook. It's a single sign-in if you already have a Gmail account, meaning what's really nice is if you do want to be a content creator or if you want to upload videos on YouTube, all you need is your Gmail account. Once you log in, you can upload videos publicly, privately, or directly for specific people, which is a nice security feature if you want to share videos that are longer in length, or if you are a videographer and you want to create videos that you only want to share with specific people before it goes out. YouTube's a great tool for that as well. It's engagement based on subscribers, meaning the more subscribers you have, the larger your page is. And think about your page kind of like a network television channel. So you are, or my page would be Wilfred's page, and the more subscribers I get, the more opportunities I can actually monetize that. And there's a lot of people nowadays that actually make a lot of money off YouTube. And that's partly the reason why lots of people are on the platform. It's a really, really strong sense of income. It creates a really strong income base. And how do they do that? They do that with ads. So, similarly to television, you get paid once an ad is shown with your video. So if YouTube knows you have a lot of viewers, they will put the appropriate ad to match your video, and then you get a piece of that ad revenue. So it's a win-win. And the biggest thing that I like about YouTube, apart from its entertainment value, it is grossly, they have a massive library of educational content. So here's a tip. The next time you're stuck on anything automotive, home, working, anything, and I mean anything, go to YouTube and search how to whatever, how to juggle, how to do whatever it may be. And typically someone has created a video. And if there isn't a video and you can do that thing, perhaps upload it and you will be monetized. Facebook and Instagram. Initially, we'll talk about these two platforms as one because they're from the same parent company, Meta, which is now Facebook's new ecosystem that they're trying to build. So Facebook is the face of social media, and Meta, the parent company, owns both of these platforms. And Facebook is known for pioneering the space, as I said earlier. But here are the broad functionalities. They're both cross-platform, available on most personal screens with an internet connection. Instagram is best viewed on a personal device. We'll get into that a little deeper when we talk about Instagram specifically. They are community and connection based. Remember, YouTube was subscriber entertainment based, but Facebook is more about community and connection, Facebook and Instagram. They also have a single sign-on, meaning if you have a Facebook account, you automatically can create an Instagram account. Engagement-based, meaning it's based on interaction and sometimes viewership, but more likes, comments, and different things like that. There are some educational components, but definitely nothing like YouTube and not as expansive. So let's talk about Instagram as a standalone. Instagram was originally its own platform, and then Facebook bought it for about $2 billion a few years ago, way back when. And Instagram is unique to Facebook because it is very visual. It's all about photos and videos, and now short reels, which are flashy, entertaining videos trying to compete with Facebook's competitor or Meta's competitor, TikTok. Instagram used to be kind of the young, cool, hip thing, but most people are on the platform now, and it's a great way to not only follow your friends, your families, but it's a great way to get a little bit of insight into their life through photography and video. Whereas Facebook is a more whole encompassing life aggregate of what the person has done. Instagram is typically their most positive and exciting things that they're doing. So it's pretty cool. And with the stories function that is both on Instagram and Facebook, you can keep up with people and see what they're up to. So what are the functionalities in use? Once again, Instagram is cross-platform. You can view it on your desktop, laptop, but it is absolutely best on your mobile device. Even an iPad can look a little bit off, but it's meant to be for smaller screens because what actually happens when a photo is posted on there, it shrinks and compresses, and the quality can't be blown up as well. It's community and connection based, but it has grown into more of an e-commerce commerce site slash store, which is purposeful because Facebook is trying to compete, or I should say Meta is trying to compete with Shopify and some other companies that offer online shopping. So once again, you'll see a lot of competition in the tech space for market share and things like that, but you don't need to worry about that. What's nice is the consumer gets the opportunity to choose and make things a lot easier for them. There are some educational components, obviously. It depends on who you follow and what you follow, but that is Instagram in a nutshell. Said a TikTok, a tiki, a TikTok, TikTok, TikTok. TikTok, one of the newest and the most popular social media apps out right now, and it is making waves. Partly because of the controversy with data and privacy, because it is one of the first mainstream applications that was not made in America. So because it was created elsewhere, it seems as though there are some data and privacy issues that initially scared people away to the point where a former president in the United States decided to ban TikTok. But that didn't stop the users from piling on. That didn't stop corporations from joining the platform. TikTok is very interesting. It has a different algorithm, and an algorithm is essentially what the platform chooses to show you than all the other applications. TikTok's algorithm is solely based on what you like. So you would think, oh, all the applications are based on what I like. Most of the other social media apps curate or create or show you content to help lead you to make a purchase decision. And because of that, TikTok said, nope, we're just going to show you what you like. And it has become one of the most addictive social media apps in the game right now. And let's talk about what the functionalities are. It's cross-platform, but it is by far best viewed on your mobile device with internet connection. It's viewership and entertainment based. So unlike Instagram, that's engagement based, meaning you want people to like and comment and share your things. TikTok is like that, but your followers aren't as relevant. It's all about your views and your likes and how much entertainment you create. So surprisingly as well, TikTok, like YouTube, has a large amount of educational components. So with TikTok, it's a little bit tricky because on one hand, it's a great new app, but there has been a little bit of concern because of the privacy claims. But overall, I think a lot of people do enjoy being on the platform. So if you want to join TikTok, use your burner email. Twitter. One of the other OGs, Facebook and Twitter came out around the same time. This is probably the least altered platform out of all of them. Twitter still looks quite the same to its inception with a few design element changes, but everything still stays true with a few carrots to get out your message, and also it still has that grid kind of newspaper style to it. So let's talk about the functionalities and use. So it is cross-platform, meaning it is available on virtually any personal screen. So that's your Mac, your computer, your laptop, your mobile device, your iPad, your tablet, and even some smart TVs can also view Twitter. So they got all their bases covered. It is community and connection based. It's probably it's the biggest news source in the world, arguably. It's not 100% child friendly though. There is 18 plus content on there. The engagements are based on retweets and likes, and there's a large amount of educational and non-educational content. So Twitter is an interesting social media app. I view Twitter as the most negative app. If social media apps were the dwarves from Snow White, this would be grumpy, meaning most of the negative information, or if you want to learn something bad, you go on Twitter and it's typically there first and then it sifts its way to the other applications. And the reason for this is the format of Twitter. You're not really basing it on characteristics or images or visuals. You are typically basing it on words. So if there is a big headline that is extremely negative and you agree with it, and some other people don't agree with it, here comes the clashes in the comments. So Twitter, I would say, use it as you may, but understand the longer you're on Twitter, the more negative it becomes. So just be mindful of it. But Twitter is also one of the most funniest platforms because of some playful jabs and people talking smack to one another. So that is enjoyable if you can keep it where it is and move on with your life. But it is easy to get hooked in as well. And remember, their algorithm is set for you to comment and make your own tweets or statements as well. So be aware of Twitter. It's interesting. It's a great way to get your news source first. LinkedIn. LinkedIn is probably one of the best social media platforms because it has a lot of incredible educational components and it's more of a business professional type of app. Overall, it's probably one of the most positive and non-superficial, authentic platforms there is when it comes to social media. And the reason for that is it is more commerce based and it is very easy to find out if you're not the CEO of a Fortune 500 company. Whereas on Instagram, you could be on a jet and no one would know the better. So the great thing about this social media platform is it is fully cross-platform and you can have it on most of your personal devices. That means it's on your laptop, your mobile devices, your tablets, or anything else. The only thing is it's probably best viewed on a laptop or desktop because of how much content there can be on your screen. But their mobile app is very good nonetheless. So LinkedIn can be used to find jobs, network, and it's great especially if you are looking to move careers or also learn about different career paths or just want general news about everything. People tend to be far more polite on this platform because it is a business platform for the most part. Microsoft owns LinkedIn. And because of that, they also have some great free educational tools that are on this platform. It has an incredible library of educational certificates and different things that you can use to increase your knowledge on various topics and basic topics as well. Overall, LinkedIn is probably a great platform for you just to go check out, connect with friends, and what also is great about this is you can search someone who graduated from your alma mater and find them that way if they're not on Facebook or those other applications. So LinkedIn overall, great platform, very safe and very polite and positive. We're going to round out this section in a little bit of a rapid fire mode. The next apps are big and have very extensive user bases, but they're not as mainstream and other applications or other platforms already do some form or some functionality of what they do as well. So Reddit is basically Twitter, but long form. You can write letters, you can write notes, and then there's different communities. And it's a mix of Facebook and Twitter, but with the Twitter format, meaning it's all about reading and responding. Photos and pictures are there, but that's not the primary visual. It's more knowledge, community based, and interactive. And people like to give tips and tricks and links on Reddit. So if you're interested in finding a pen pal or something like that, Reddit is probably where you can go find it, but be careful. Don't give out any personal or private information on those platforms. But they do have very great communities and very interesting topics and people writing stories and different things like that. Pinterest. Pinterest is like Instagram, but Instagram that is not front facing in the sense that it's not about the person you're following, it's about what they like. So Pinterest is a very big scrapbook of images. And the best way to describe Pinterest is if you like something, you post it and you can curate different images and different things, whether it be kitchens, architecture, design, renovations, whatever it may be, you can compile these photos and people can view it and enjoy it. Very interesting, right? That one's just not for me, but it is a great platform. Nonetheless, it's a less superficial Instagram. Snapchat. So Snapchat is interesting because most people said it would die a long time ago, but it has found its unique niche. Snapchat is like a messenger's app, but because the message deletes after a certain amount of time, if you choose for it to, there is that anonymity. But remember what I said, nothing truly gets deleted off the internet. So be mindful of anything you're sending through Snapchat, regardless of what they have said. Okay, the big thing about Snapchat is it's grossly entertaining. They also have short video clips and they're not very educational for the most part. It's typically gossip and different news pieces as well. But overall, this platform has sustained and found itself in a very interesting niche by pulling the best of each one of the other big platforms. And the nice thing about Snapchat too is you don't really need to post anything. You don't need to gain more followers or different things. You can just follow who you like, add who you like, and you can stay anonymous as much as you like as well. And then the last one is Tumblr. So Tumblr is interesting because it has gone through its highs and its lows. And for the most part, Tumblr is a mix of Pinterest and Reddit. So you have your visual components and then you have a lot of your written components, but there's also a little bit of a music aspect. I wouldn't really bother with Tumblr. It's a great platform if you want to explore niche platforms. I would call it kind of like the indie alternative kind of social media platform. But overall, it's still great. So all these applications have all these social media applications have a lot in common, and that is they're trying to keep you on as long as possible. And the reason why is because that helps them generate ad revenue. So be mindful of this. If you find yourself scrolling, or on these apps for a very long period of time, take a break, go outside, or go read a book, or go do some different things because they can be a little bit addicting. And if you find yourself in an echo chamber whereby you are getting into either arguments online or you're getting upset by seeing other things that are happening, what you need to remember is the real world is far much better, and you just need to take a social media break, which a lot of people do, and it's absolutely okay. Remember, they want you to stay there as long as possible. So whether that's you liking content or you disliking content, Both of those things make you want to stay for the most part. So, happy socials, get out there. If it's an application you're unsure of, use your burner account. But for the most part, most of these applications are safe, and try to read as much fine print because it changes often if you are unsure. Privacy and security. When it comes to social networks and social media, most of them already have quite great security and some have good privacy established. When it comes to dual authentication, most platforms do allow you to use dual authentication, whereby you enter your main password and then they send you a code or a link to get another piece for you to log in. So this is great. It ensures that your account is not compromised, or if it does get compromised, they don't have access to seemingly sensitive information you may have in your account. But here's a reminder: tech companies offer these platforms for free in exchange for your data and your attention to try to increase ad revenue. So keep that in mind whenever you're on a social media platform. Make sure you understand that although it is free, although this is such a great piece of platform or content or whatever it is, the end goal is it is a for-profit tech company behind that. And knowing that kind of puts you at ease because you understand the exchange that is going on. When it comes to privacy, there are safeguards that you can use within your settings app. You can turn off your location and you can turn off different components as well. All you got to do is go to Google and type in privacy or turn off this, whichever application or platform you're using. By doing this, you will be able to find different manuals and different things like that if that's the route you want to go. For the most part, the data that they do collect is aggregated and used to push you ads that relate to you, as we discussed in that earlier section. Once again, there's two schools of thought to this. There's, oh my goodness, this is incredible. And then, oh my goodness, this is an infringement of my right. These two are constantly doing the tango and no one really knows how it's going to play out. Some people are like, this is convenient, and some people are like, this is invasive. So strike a balance. Strike a balance between your digital life and your real life. And that is probably the best way and the healthiest way to move forward with these social media applications and platforms. A reminder: everything is not what it seems, or everything is not exactly what it seems online as it is in real life. So make sure you read as much fine print as possible. Use a burner email if you are unsure. Change your password every 6 months. Don't open links from unknown users. Similar to the email scams, once again, if someone tries to give you money or an item that is desirable, don't open it immediately. Delete that message and lock it out. If you dislike someone, a lot of these social media platforms or a lot of these social media apps are implementing a pause or mute option. So if someone is posting content you really don't like and you think it'll be a bigger issue if you delete them or remove them, you can put them on mute now. And this functionality is truly a lifesaver, and it prevents you from having more issues than you need. So overall, these social platforms are great, especially YouTube and LinkedIn. Instagram and all these other ones, and Facebook, you can use recreationally. But if you really want to learn great things, I'm a big advocate for YouTube and LinkedIn. If you want to try out TikTok, by all means, it is a little bit of a learning curve because at first you're like, what am I watching? But the more you use it, the more the AI and their algorithm understands what you like, and they will start to prompt you entertainment that you enjoy. So that's it for social media and social networks. Make sure you have fun and you learn some great stuff online. Congratulations, you did it. Yes, you did it. You now have a great foundation to help you on your digital platforms. Thank you so much for taking Staying Connected. And now you have the opportunity to grab a Staying Connected certificate. You can claim your certificate after you fill out a short little survey. But once again, congratulations. And we hope to bring you more courses just like this that get more in depth, because as your knowledge grows, we also want to help you throughout that process. So thank you once again. My name is Wilfred Samking, and I'm signing off from Staying Connected, and I'll see you very soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.